Hi, I'm Jeanne Fiorini. Thanks for being here at the Tarot Tips. We are entering into the three-part segment here of doing the quick, down and dirty overview of the Major Arcana cards. Now this is a challenge because there's nothing quick and down and dirty about the Major Arcana. But I'm going to try to keep it succinct. We're going to talk about the Fool through the Chariot card in this segment. In the second installment of the Major Arcana, which will be out 3 to 4 weeks after you see this video, we'll talk about cards 8 through cards 14, and then cards 15 through 21 will be covered in the third video, which probably will be out in the middle of January. So the Major Arcana cards are going to carry us into the coming year, into 2014. So the Major Arcana is complex. We are going to keep it simple. I'm not going to talk in these three videos about the astrological and elemental correlations. Those are covered in the tarot video, which was posted on June, I think 30th of this year, called The Rose of Tarot. So check out that video if you haven't already seen it. That's going to give you those associations and correspondences. Today we're just going to talk about meanings. Let me make the point about the Major Arcana that the Major Arcana are the larger forces in our experience. They are non-personal. When we talked about the suits, the pentacles, the cups, the wands, and the swords, these are specific experiences that we can point to, that we can define very clearly. I got this new job. I moved from one home to another. I had a child. I broke up with my boyfriend. Very specific things that we can define. The Major Arcana cards are not like that. They're going to be broader in their scope, broader in their influence, and broader in the kind of words that we might use to try to describe them. You may or may not be familiar with the term archetype. The Major Arcana cards, the 22 major cards of the Major Arcana, are 22 of the formational archetypal energies that all human beings experience. Archetype just simply means a universal human experience, so we don't need to complicate that term. We will see as we're going through these that they are not definitions, but they are energies with which all people in different levels of consciousness have to grapple. We could say that the cards from 0 to 21 represent, some people call it the Fool's Journey, some people call it the journey to individuation, some people call it a growth cycle. However you want to see it, it's like all other things in the tarot, in that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the first 8 cards that we're going to talk about today are the beginning. I like to think of these first 8 cards, Fool through the Chariot card, as the foundational archetypes. These are the essential, the basic, the foundations from which our personality can emerge, from which our conscious self emerges. These are, you could say, foundational building blocks in an archetypal form of our consciousness and of our human experience. So that's a mouthful. That's why the Major Arcana are complex, why we're only going to talk about today 8 cards, but in the next couple of videos only 7 cards in each video. So that's a fairly lengthy introduction to what we're going to do today, but to help carry us through to the other 2 segments as well. Let me remind you that if you want further information about the majors or anything else, please go to the Tarot Works website, tarotworks.com, where you can find 8 separate videos on all the different segments and components of the tarot. So let's see what's on the tarot table today. Major Arcana, first section, foundational archetypes. Okay, you may see these cards laid out in a different pattern than what you're used to in terms of the first 8 cards of the Major Arcana. A lot of times we separate out the Fool at the top and then divide the remaining 21 cards into 3 rows of 7. I laid them out this way because this is how somewhere along the line in the tarot tips or on my website, the free Major Arcana introduction, you will see a map of the Major Arcana that it's a conceptual map that I devised as I was beginning to teach tarot classes in person in the Portland, Maine area. And so here's how I've conceptualized the first 8 cards of the Major Arcana. There is this emergence of energy from the Fool, kind of sifting down here through these different levels of energy. You'll see that there's a break here, and then we start moving along a certain path with the Lovers and the Chariot. This will maybe be self-defined as we go through these cards. So in an effort to keep things simple, let's just launch in here with the Fool in terms of meanings. What do these first 8 cards mean? The Fool, card 0. Now 0 is a concept that's very difficult for humans to embrace. How do we embrace nothing? Anything that we're trying to picture is going to be something. So the Fool is considered a card of the source. It's considered the place of the most authentic self. It's the place of non-rational confidence in all things and an in-the-moment experience of one's life. So that's a very pure, undivided place. The 0 or the circle is the only card in the tarot that doesn't fall on either dynamic or receptive. As soon as we move off the Fool, I put the dynamic cards here on the right and the receptive cards here on the left. The Fool moves into the Magician and the High Priestess. I like to see these on different level. They're on the same level, but they're different sides of the same coin, you could say. The Magician is the dynamic aspect. The High Priestess is the receptive aspect. So extremely elemental energies there with Magician and High Priestess. Magician is the expression of creative force, the capacity to invent and take advantage of opportunities. It's the awareness of one's particular gifts and abilities, and using one's initiative to create change and affect change in the world. Creative spark with the Magician. The High Priestess, card 2, is the essence of receptivity. The High Priestess does absolutely nothing. This is a card that represents intuition, the inner voice, the nebulous realm of the unconscious, where all things sit in potential and in possibility, where the opposites are contained and not decided upon. That's what the black and the white pole are. This is a card of patience, receptive awareness. High Priestess, card 2. If we move to card 3, the Empress is the essence of the archetype of mother, the nurturer, the facilitator. This is the forces of the natural world, Mother Nature, cycles, growth cycles. This is also about connection, collaboration, and facilitating, nurturing growth. Archetype of the mother. Next to her, on the same level, but holding a different kind of energy, a dynamic energy versus a receptive energy, is this Emperor. Card 4. The essence of the archetype of father, creator, the builder and the creator, the force of the intellect and reason. This is a card of management, of control, of manifestation. We move into card 5, the Heirophant. I've not ever seen that word Heirophant in any other context other than in the tarot. When you break it down into its root origins, it means speaker of the sacred. So the Heirophant is the teacher, the mentor, guidance received from traditional sources, structures in the society that can help guide us, that can help us as individuals along our path. It's also the structures of society and culture, institutions, somewhat religions, contexts that infuse meaning to our experience, and those people who can help guide us along the way. Doctors, helpers, healers, mentors, guides, Heirophant. So if all of those are in equal balance and perfectly harmonious, out of that myriad of different energies, an individual consciousness can emerge. And that's what the Lover's card is about. Let me move these last two further into frame. Now, the Lovers is not specifically about relationship. It's really more about authenticity. It's about choices that are made consciously and with intentional purpose. It's about the authenticity of one's personal life, about what work choices, what relationship choices, what way of being you decide upon and then live your life through. It's balance in all aspects of one's life, and a harmonization of opposing energies. Now, this is the first card that shows an attempted reunification of these polarities that we have seen in the first group of cards. So the Lovers indicate stepping out into individual consciousness. Card 6. Card 7, the Chariot. This is kind of, if you want to say, taking that decision on the road. Taking those opposites, moving forward with the force of your personality, being driven, focused attention along a certain path. There's a certain level of confidence there. We have to be careful of hubris as well with that card. But there's a lot going on in this card, but the prime energy is in the person who's behind the wheel of the Chariot. So how am I overcoming obstacles? How do I move forward in my life despite the things that might try to stand in my way? How am I confident? And off we go. The next segments are going to be the archetypes of growth, and we'll see you next time for that group.